We're back with you here on Gridiron 2022, Dr. Ron Poniewasz and Professor Larry Kelly for Gridiron 2022, the award-winning Gridiron 2022. And Larry Kelly is the varsity baseball coach at Shenango High School and a member of the Luxembourg, Garbutt, Kelly and George law firm. And we welcome him back aboard to our award-winning podcast. And Larry, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's Halloween tonight, so I dressed up like a sports journalist. How do I look?
Probably no worse than I do. So
there you go. You're
And,
wearing your gear, and I'm wearing mine. Shenango High School, baby.
Yeah,
Shenango baseball, Cats baseball. Count on me.
I'm repping Mac Jones.
Yeah. You had a nice game this weekend.
Yep. Yeah, I guess.
All right, let's talk about Athlete of the Week.
Yeah, Athlete of the Week. We are going in print edition. Everybody will notice that Mohawk's Jackson Shodell, a cross-country runner for Mohawk, will be our Athlete of the Week. And he took second place in the WPIO Boys Cross Country Championships. He finished in 16 minutes and 50 seconds. So first of all, let's just give him his due. That's very impressive to medal like that, that close to the top. And I believe he's a sophomore. So to do that at such a young age with his career ahead of him, very impressive. Impressive.
That's a good word. Listen, there were probably 100 runners maybe competing in the WPIAL championships, and to finish second is an impressive feat. You're legit. A lot of people say, well, you didn't win. Well, how do you define victory? I define victory, giving it your all, doing the best that you can, spending yourself in a worthy cause, and doing all of that and only having one guy in the field beat you. That's victory to me. So congratulations, Jackson. And he's still a baby. I mean, it's very unusual for a sophomore in high school to be able to compete against juniors and seniors, because quite frankly, your body isn't developed yet. You're not a man yet. You haven't had that shot of testosterone that develops all that fast twitch muscle that most great athletes have. So the fact that this young man finished second as a sophomore, a time of 16:50, he has a bright future, and it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't bring back gold here in the not too distant future.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, coming up a little short in terms of winning the whole thing, he does have the championship ahead of him, so he does have that opportunity. If he ran so well at the district meet, he could kind of turn things around, so to speak, and maybe get on the podium at the top spot for the gold medal, and that'll be coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, and I don't know that he needs to turn it around. He probably needs to increase his time in 10 seconds or less. So, he's right there, and congratulations. What a great effort for a young man who has a bright future. But it doesn't surprise me. It seems like Mohawk, they've had an outstanding track program forever. Started with Ron Lake many, many years ago, and it's continued. And I commend them, and they have a culture out there of competitive perseverance, is how I like to call it. They're there every year.
Yeah. So Mohawk cross-country runner Jackson Shodell will be your for print Athlete of the Week. Let's tell you about two guys that had great football performances here. It was Johnny Huff of Neshannock, a 6'1", 180-pound senior quarterback, defensive back, 22 carries, 275 yards, and 6 touchdowns on runs of 22, 3, 11, 1, 2, 27, and a 42-12 win over Mohawk. So we'll talk about Johnny Huff. Larry, he gets it done with his legs and through the air, says he's the quarterback. But on this particular night, they couldn't stop his running.
You think that's a pretty good performance? 6 touchdowns, 12 and a half yards a carry. We started the season, I believe, with Johnny Huff as Athlete of the Week on Gridiron, and we're ending our season with Johnny Huff. This young man is an outstanding football player. I know he's an integral part of Neshannock's success. both offensively and defensively. You know, in the old days, it seemed like the quarterback always played safety. You don't see that as much anymore, but you know, he's a throwback because he's also a defensive back, and I believe he's a safety. Neshannock football is the real deal. I believe they had a 4 seed, and I know we're going to talk about that moving forward. They got a real chance to be the Whippeal champs this year, and well coached, tough guys. Congratulations, Johnny Huff, not only on your game Friday night, but on a great season and leading the Lancers to a 9-1 record.
Andrew Cartwright of Union, a 5'8", 180-pound running back, outside linebacker. 14 carries, 104 yards, 4 touchdowns. He scored on runs of 12, 3, 8, and 1. And that was a big win against Summit Academy on Friday night. You know, turned things around from that Southside Beaver loss from last week and got them some quality momentum as the playoffs get ready to start.
Yeah, we had 2 guys that had a combined 10 touchdowns on one Friday night. I didn't have 10 in my entire career, starting in Pop Warner and moving forward. So, yeah, 2 outstanding performances by 2 outstanding football players. Look, I don't think Union will call this a big win. They're supposed to beat Summit Academy, and they took care of business. I'm sure they just wanted to make a few things, get a few corrections made, get a few things under control moving forward to the playoffs. They did that, and now, you know, their second season begins.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so again, Jackson Shodell, you'll be reading about him in print as the athlete of the week, Mohawk cross country runner. And then for us here on Gridiron, Johnny Huff of Neshannock and Andrew Cartwright of Union had top performances on the Gridiron.
There's one thing I learned growing up around here. People should look out for each other, be friends and neighbors that you can count on. So it bothers me when people who are hurt in automobile accidents get bullied by the insurance company. I don't let bullies run over my clients. I do what I was taught growing up. Step up, stand up, and speak up for those who can't. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.
Okay, we're back with you here one final time on Gridiron. This is our schedule portion. We have 5 playoff games, 4 of them in the WPIL. All 4 of those are on Friday night. We have 1 game on Saturday night. So let's start obviously in order on Friday, run right through them. Number 15, Carmichael's at number 2, Laurel in WPIL Class 1A action. In this game, Laurel is 8-1. I didn't write Carmichael's record down, but Landon Smith, Larry, 151 carries for 1,332 yards and a county high 26 touchdowns. They just they reload. It's not like they rebuild or anything. You lose Luke McCoy. Okay, fine. Landon Smith, take over, and he does.
They had a great year, and I think I had Laurel as my number 1 team in the county when we ranked the teams, and for good reason. Man, they are the real deal, and I think they were disappointed last year in not winning the Whippeal championship. They got, I won't say upset by Sarah Catholic, but Sarah Catholic played in the Whippeal championship game, and I believe might have been the Whippeal champs. So I look for Laurel to make a deep run. You know, they're well coached, and as you said, they reload and they run the ball, and they do it as well as anybody in the county. And they control the line of scrimmage. They held my Shenango Wildcats to 46 rushing yards last week, while racking up 162 yards themselves. And the other thing that was a little bit impressive, which, they had 217 yards passing, which is something Laurel doesn't do every game. So they're ready to go, and they're ready to make a run.
They lost a good bit of talent from last year's team. Kobe DeRosa was the quarterback. He graduated, but Chase Tinsley Hintzman has come right in, and he's done a very good job running the offense. So they've plugged their holes in perfectly. These kids that are playing right now, they studied under the kids that graduated. They learned from quote unquote the best, and they waited for their opportunity. They bided their time, and here they are. Rightfully so, the 2 seed. In Class 1A, and now let's see what they got. I expect them to make a run. I really do.
They're a good football team. They're well coached, and I think they have a little bit of a bitter taste in their mouth after losing, I believe, in the semifinal game last year, or maybe the quarterfinal game. So, and when you say Tinchman, man, that is a Laurel name. And that's the thing about really good programs. You got to wait your turn. In Newcastle, back when I went to school, very unusual for a sophomore, even a junior, to get significant playing time. You had to wait your turn because the guys in front of you were really, really good. And that's the way good programs are. You got guys in front of you who can play, and you wait your turn. And then when you do get your turn, you're ready to go. And that's what's happened to Laurel this year.
Yeah, in recent years, it was billed as the highway to Hines, and obviously it's no longer Hines Field. It's Acrisure Stadium. I don't care. I'm going to call it the highway to Hines. I don't care because what else are you going to call it? The avenue to Acrisure? Nobody has had a cute and clever statement of it. I haven't read anything. It would have been out by now. So it's either highway to Hines or the avenue to Acrisure. Those are your.
But are they playing the championship games at Heinz Field this year? Are they? Okay, maybe we go, whatever. Yeah, I'll still call it Heinz Field. Right. But I think maybe they're not going to be televised. Maybe that's what I read. But hey, listen, the kids want to get there. It's what it's all about.
There's 2 classifications that are not being played there, 5 and 6. And I think they're going to be played. I could be way off on this. Norwin High School, maybe, but I'm almost positive it's 5 and 6. Class 5A, Class 6A are not going to be at Acrisure. The rest of them will be at Acrisure. Number 13, Burrell, which is 6 and 4. At number 4, Neshannock, which is 9 and 1. All these Friday games are 7 p.m. This one is at Neshannock. This is a WPIO Class 2A playoff matchup, Larry. And, reading the game story, Neshannock Mohawk, I gather that Fred and the gang was a little irate, a little bit on, maybe angry going into Mohawk. They wanted to prove a point. They lost to them 15-7 last year. They wanted to avenge that. And that's all people were doing was talking about Mohawk and how good Mohawk was playing. And despite all their issues, with the hazing and losing 2 games, and, nobody was giving Neshannock their just due. All they did was go out there and they put it on the Warriors last week. Neshannock's ready to go in Class 2A, Larry.
Listen, they're a good football team. They are sound, and they're playing a home game. That's a long bus ride for Burrell. It's a long bus ride for Carmichael's. It's a big advantage playing at home when you don't have to get on a bus. And truth be told, it's well earned. Laurel 8 and 1, Neshannock 9 and 1. Well earned those opportunities to play at home. And so therefore, look, Neshannock's good. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a deep run in this WPIAL championship. And if I'm not mistaken, they're on the same side of the bracket as Beaver Falls. So they're going to get another shot at Beaver Falls, which gave them their only loss this past year.
Yeah, I'm not that I don't know offhand, but Neshannock is a 4 seed. They could have got a higher seed, but like Fred Mazzacco told me, the team that got the 3 seed was a conference champion, earned the 3 seed. Neshannock is a dangerous number 4 seed. I would not want to play them. I would not want to have to scheme for them because you've got Johnny Huff, you got Matt Ionilli, then you got the receivers that you have to look out for and cover. They really run that offense very well. Precision. It's a very, very good offense, well run. I wouldn't want to have to be a defensive coordinator and try to stop that.
They're going to be a formidable foe moving forward. They really are. Actually, now that I look at it, Beaver Falls was the 2 seed, so they will not be on the same side of the bracket as Neshannock, because when you get to the semifinals, the 2 plays to 3 and the 1 plays to 4. So I believe Still Valley may be the 1 in that classification, and that's who Neshannock will play in the semis when they get there.
Yeah, that's how I thought it was. I thought Beaver Falls was on the other side. I definitely know Steel Valley's,
Yeah,
on that same side with Neshannock.
yeah,
Okay.
right.
Number 10, Union, 7-3 at number 7, Burgettstown, which is 6-3, 7 p.m. Friday night, WPIL Class 1A playoffs. And Larry, after the game, I was speaking with Kim Needballa, and I asked him, I said, Coach, playoff bearings will be released tomorrow, Saturday. Are you getting a home game? Do you feel that you guys get a home game? And he said, I don't know about the mathematics of it all, and what they decide and how they decide it. But he says, I know what I have on my team, and I know what I have in that locker room. And, he says, but that's not for me to say, what seed we get or anything like that. At this point, I haven't spoke with him. I don't know how thrilled he is with a 10 seed, but I really thought that they could have been in that 8-9 game personally. But regardless, they're on the bracket, they're playing a game, they're going to board a bus, and they'll be ready to play.
And Burgettstown's a long drive, my brother. It is. It's a disadvantage for Union. And, we played Burgettstown a couple of years in baseball. There's some tough kids down there. So this will be a big test for Union. They better bring their A game, control the ball. They got some real playmakers on that team. But you can't turn it over. You get it in the red zone. You got to be able to score. And, I think they're going to have a speed advantage over Burgettstown because Union got some kids that can fly. But and if they control the ball, I think they win.
Yeah,
don't turn it over.
First year coach in Kim Needballa as a head coach, but he's been a defensive coordinator, defensive coach in years past on successful teams. So he knows all about the playoffs. He knows how it works and things like that. So you got to think that maybe that'll lessen the butterflies, so to speak. But I'm sure he'll still be excited and maybe have that a little bit of a butterfly thing. But the players, the program hasn't been to the playoffs since 2017. So which is it more important for, the coach being his first quote unquote rodeo, or the players? Who's got to get past that first?
It's all about the players, Ronnie. It's all, I've been coaching long enough. I think I've been coaching for 25 years, various sports. It's all about the players. And the coach's job is to get them ready, to get them prepared. But, when they blow the whistle and kick it off, it's all about the players.
Okay, number 9, Mohawk, 4-4 overall. At number 8, McGuffey, 7-3. This is a WPIL Class 2A playoff matchup. Jay Rona doing great things at Mohawk. He's 84 of 145 for 1,268 yards. He's thrown 14 touchdowns with 7 interceptions, as we mentioned earlier. They had the hazing incident that cost them 2 games. They lost their first 2 games right out of the chute, blown out by Laurel, and then lost a heartbreaker in the waning moments at home against Riverside. But right after that, they turned it around.
Well, again, against Neshannock, they were dominated at the line of scrimmage, and they can't allow that to happen in a playoff game against McGuffey. Neshannock ran the ball for 329 yards, and Mohawk, their net rushing was minus 34. Now, they threw the ball pretty well. They threw it for over 100 yards. But at the same time, you have to be able to run the ball in high school football, and you have to be able to control the line of scrimmage. So I'm sure the coaches will look at the film, hopefully make whatever adjustments are necessary. But they can't get dominated at the line of scrimmage and win a playoff game. It's just not going to happen. The teams that play each other normally are pretty evenly balanced, especially when you're in an 8-9 game. So Mohawk will have to do a better job at the line of scrimmage if they're going to be successful.
Those are our WPIL playoff matchups. We mentioned Landon Smith for Laurel, and we mentioned Jay Rona. Let's take a real quick step backwards and talk Johnny Huff real quick. 152 carries for Neshannock, 1,571 yards and 23 touchdowns, 76 of 161 through the air, 968 yards. So he should go over 1,000 this week in terms of his aerial yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And then for Union, Braylon Thomas, similar guy, quarterback through the air and on the ground. Thomas, 146 carries for 1,110 yards, 12 touchdowns, and he's got a good amount of 2-point conversions because they go for 2, regardless if it's a tight ball game or a runaway. They don't have a kicker, and he's 46 of 104 through the air, 683 yards, 6 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So Larry, we have good WPIL football teams, good football players also, and strong coaches.
Well, those 2 guys that you just mentioned, as well as Landon Smith from Laurel, probably are in the running for Player of the Year in Lawrence County. Those young men have had tremendous seasons, and the season that Johnny Huff has had at Neshannock, I quite frankly, in my memory, can't remember another season. I shouldn't say that, because Chris Hood last year ran for 1,000 yards and threw for 1,000 yards at Newcastle, and Chris is now playing at IUP. And as you just mentioned, Newcastle plays in the toughest conference in the WPIL. So I'll say this: the Johnny Huff season is similar to the one that Chris Hood had at Newcastle last year, and that's pretty special when you can run for 1,000 and throw for 1,000. Pretty special.
Okay, so we have one final game left. It is Saturday. Take a deep breath. I think I'm calm. I think I'm relaxed. I don't think my blood pressure is going up just yet.
Okay.
We're ready, Larry. Here you go. Wilmington, the number 6 seed in District 10, 3-6 overall. They will travel to Erie Stadium Saturday night at 7 p.m. to face number 3 Mercyhurst Prep, 6-4. That's on the surface. So it's been a rough year for Wilmington. It really has. Up until the Grove City game, in the first half of their games in region play, 0 points. They got on the board first against Grove City in the first quarter. That was their only touchdown of region play in the first half all year. Their only points. They lost that game 35-6. They could have beat General McLean. That could have been a 4th win. There may have been 1 or 2 other games where they were in it. So Larry, I know you know what you said last week with Blackhawk. If you're under 500, you believe that a team does not belong in the playoff. Correct?
I do.
Okay. All right. So with that said, do you remember 2 or 3 years ago in basketball tip-off, the Wilmington girls basketball program was forced to opt out because they were under 500. And I believe their bylaws said, if you are under 500, you can't go to the postseason. And I'm not sure if that was only girls sports or if it was sports in general at Wilmington. Do you remember when we had that spirited discussion?
I remember that discussion. I do remember that discussion.
Okay. So, and again, I'm not sure if it's girls only or if that's sports in general, but if it's girls only, there's a Title IX thing out there. I'm sure everybody knows about that. How can you justify 3-6? And I know the answer, the easy answer is going to be because they win football championships. They've got a pedigree of winning football championships. To me, and congratulations to the football program, the coaching staff, the student athletes. We're big fans of Brandon Philly and Bob Mitchell-Tree, all the guys on the coaching staff. First and foremost, that's a big thing to make the playoffs, whether you're 3-6 or 6-3. But if you're going to go to the postseason under 500, you can't tell me with a straight face that what they did a couple years ago to the girls basketball program, and I don't think they were like 5-18. I think they were maybe 2 or 3 games under 500. What's the difference besides the girls versus?
There is no difference. But again, who made that decision? Was it a policy, or did the school board just say we're not going? I remember there was much to do about it. The coach was a little unhappy. It wasn't his decision. I believe it might have been the school board's decision. There is no difference. I mean, look, Wilmington wins championships. They've won the District 10 championship, 5 of the last 6 years. They played in the state championship 3 years in a row. I've said for years they are the gold standard for high school football in Lawrence County. Bob Mitchell-Tree is a dear friend of mine. He is the epitome of what a high school coach should be. Brendan Fillion stepped into Terry Varelli's shoes and continued the success that school has had. It seems like forever. But if Larry Kelly is czar of the world and you're 3-6, you don't go to the playoffs. Period. You just don't. You didn't earn it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love to know how they came to that with the girls basketball program a few years ago. It was something in their bylaws, and again, I don't know if it was girls sports solely or if it was sports, no matter if it's boys or girls. It's just, from the way I remember it, it's a bad look to take a 3-6 team, but yet you wouldn't let the girls basketball program go to the playoffs. And again, I can't remember their record. I don't think it was something
But
horrific.
let me ask you this question. In District 10, in women's basketball and in basketball for the men's program also, is it a situation where everybody is invited to participate as compared to here, you have to be selected? So maybe that's the only difference. Not every District 10 team in football is invited to participate in the playoffs. Well, and maybe that's the difference.
I think in football, everybody does get to go, because I read on Twitter where somebody posted the deadline to opt out of the postseason was whatever day it was.
Okay. Well, then there is no difference. If indeed they weren't invited, then there is no difference. But, when I see seeding, as there is some seeding here, it makes me think that maybe there's an invitation and maybe, you are selected. Now, if you are selected, then yeah, you should participate. But if it's just a situation where the school policy says, if you're under 500, you don't go, that rule should be the same for men and women. It should be the same. And, look, 3-6, how do you justify being a playoff team at 3-6? And I'm sure they're not happy either about that. Wilmington hasn't lost 6 games in the last 5 years, have they? I don't think so. I mean, every year they've lost like 1 game. One year, I think last year they might have lost 2, but I'm sure they're not real happy about this. It is a somewhat of a benefit. Seniors get to play another game, which is a big deal, because if you're a senior in high school and you're playing football, when your season's over, unless you're playing at the next level, you will never play another game. As a baseball player, there are summer leagues that you can continue to play. As a basketball player, there are summer leagues that you can continue to play in. There are no pickup leagues for tackle football after your senior year. So, hey, look, if you're going to give if there's a silver lining here, it's the fact that you're giving your seniors at least one more opportunity to suit up and wear the school's colors and buckle your chin strap. And I can appreciate that. I respect that. But truth be told, at 3-6, you haven't earned your way in.
Well,
that's just me talking. I may be wrong and people may disagree. But I have high praise and respect for Greyhound football. I've said for years on this program, they are the gold standard for Lawrence County football. Year in and year out, they've done it better than anybody.
You made a good point about it's one more week of practice and another game for the seniors. But even more importantly, it's for the kids that'll be coming back next year. They get another week of practice, another game, and we're limiting it to just 1 week. Who knows? Maybe they go out to Erie and win. We don't know that. I don't know what Mercyhurst Prep has. Maybe they beat Cupcakes and they're 6-4, and their 4 losses are to strong programs. We have to understand that Wilmington could have beaten General McLean, a late touchdown by General McLean, which was maybe a 1-loss team or no losses at the time they played. Hickory, they beat Hickory. They rallied and beat, I believe it was Greenville. So they've been in games. They've won a couple tight ones. I don't know. what do they need to do, Larry, to justify their playoffs? I mean, maybe win 2 games, maybe is one enough? What say you?
In the playoffs, if you win 1 game, then you belong, because these teams are normally pretty good. I don't know. Is there another team in that bracket that has a record under 500? I don't know. I don't think so. I'd be surprised. But if you go and you could take care of Mercyhurst Prep and be competitive in the next game, then yeah, you belong. You belong. But you got to earn your way in, Ronnie. You just got to, in my era, there were no participation trophies. I didn't win my first trophy until I was 12 years old. We won an all-star tournament in Struthers, Ohio. And I still have that dog. And man, I'll never forget when the guy handed it to me. You got to earn it, man. You got to earn it. And, this is the first year. And since we've been doing this program, that Wilmington not only has not earned their way into the playoffs, they were the team that everybody wanted to be. And again, they have been the gold standard for Lawrence County football year in and year out.
I didn't study the bracket too closely. I think 2 wins will get them to the championship to play more than likely Farrell. A win against Mercyhurst Prep, I'm pretty sure if I read it right and studied it close enough, they will play Sharpsville next week, which was their week 0 opponent. Sharpsville beat them, I think it was 21-0. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out for Wilmington. We certainly wish them the best. We're happy to see them in the playoffs, but it does raise a big question mark to me about under 500 programs and who can go and who can't.
Well, you are an investigative reporter. I suggest that tomorrow you're on the phone with the president of the Wilmington Area School Board and ask them why the women's program was not permitted to participate in the men's football team is. I'll be looking for that story.
Who knows? They might have changed their bylaws since then.
Well, then they can tell you that. But the fact of the matter is, that's a great question you're asking. I suggest that if I was the sports editor, I would put you on assignment. Put Cody Patterson on the job tomorrow. Let him start making some phone calls. I'll make that, or Pete Sirianni. Send my man Pete out there. See if he can sniff it out.
Well, if you were the czar of the world, you would just dictate everything, wouldn't you? You'd just be making assignments for everybody.
I would love to be czar of the world just for one day.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm not even czar of my own household, let alone czar of the world.
I have nothing to say on that point, Larry. Yeah.
All right, brother. Another good show. Very interesting subject you brought up, and you make, once again, you make a very legitimate point and ask a very good question as to why the difference. I'd be anxious to know.
Well, I wasn't sure which way we were going with this. Like I said, it was a part of me said we're either going to kill each other and be in a steel cage in April at WrestleMania, or we're going to be standing there like this saying we agree.
No, I agree with you. I mean, somebody better explain the difference. And again, unless it was a situation where you have to be invited to participate in the football playoffs. And if that indeed is the case, and you are invited, you should accept. At that situation, you can't say no. That's my feeling. That would be the differentiating factor that would justify the difference in the treatment of the programs, in my view.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we wish all of our teams, all 5 of them, coaching staff, players, cheering section, student body, what have you, communities, the very best of luck this week, Friday and Saturday. And we'd love to have 5 teams playing again next week. And, just keep it going. If we do get 5, that means next week, Larry Kelly, we will have a rematch between Laurel and Union.
Be a great game.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a great game. Absolutely.
Don't think I haven't looked ahead at the bracket and saw that. I mentioned it to Brian Cooper, and he says we're focused on Carmichael's, and that's who we're looking at. Nobody can look ahead. If you have a hiccup, it'll cost you your season. So we're focused on Carmichael's, and good for them and their staff. They're not looking, down the road. That's something for us to do. So we wish them luck, and maybe they'll see each other a week from Friday.
One game at a time, as my guy Jimmy Valvanos once said, survive and advance. That's what it's all about.
All right. He's Larry Kelly, and if he can survive and advance the next week, we will see him back here on Gridiron. We appreciate everybody for joining us, tuning in. Be sure to stop on back next week and watch us, and certainly check out our content online in the daily pages. For Larry Kelly, I'm Ron Poniewasz. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
There's one thing I learned growing up around here. People should look out for each other. Be friends and neighbors that you can count on. So it bothers me when people who are hurt in automobile accidents get bullied by the insurance company. I don't let bullies run over my clients. I do what I was taught growing up. Step up, stand up, and speak up for those who can't. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.